Hello everyone. So we are going to do a full update on the saltwater tank today. Now the yellow chorus wrasse died. It was kind of older and it was pretty big when I finally took out the body, so I actually didn't see it for 2 or 3 weeks before it popped up dead on the sand bed right over here actually. So I'm guessing it just wasn't doing well during the last period of its life. The tomato clown, which actually hits about a year old today in my tank, always likes to sit in this little spot unless I'm feeding him. He stays in this little section. My guess is because the damselfish can't get into that little crevice over there, so the clown appears to like to stay in that little section. I don't mind the clownfish staying there because it gives me a spot to always check immediately when I see the tank in the morning to make sure that a fish is always alive. And seeing the tomato clown in that little cave is always good. It does venture out when I feed, and it does venture out a little bit when the damsel is hiding in its usual spot, back here by the corner. Now the damsel does move around and will probably be a bit harder to film because it's rather finicky. It hasn't really adapted to my presence, even though I've had it for over a year now. So, what am I going to do with this tank? It doesn't have a light. It's just pumps and fish. So there's only 2 fish in here, the tomato clown and the damsel. And in a 60-gallon, it makes it feel kind of empty. I'm gonna have to do something with this tank, and I'm not quite sure what yet. So one of the options I was debating is putting a freshwater light on the tank and trying some sort of macroalgae. In this tank, I could leave the 2 fish in and just grow some sort of macroalgae throughout this whole rockwork. The other option is to actually buy a saltwater light and try coral again, but I'm not leaning that way. I thought about trying more other inverts. I do still have 3 blue-legged hermits in this tank, but that is essentially it. Shrimp have not done well with the damsel. As a matter of fact, I'm fairly certain the damsel and the former wrasse kept on picking off peppermint shrimp when I tried them. So I'm not going to add shrimp to this tank. I'm not going to attempt it. I believe a macroalgae would be my best bet in getting something else in this tank aside from what I already have. Perhaps one of the blue macroalgae would be nice under a freshwater light. The other option I was debating is adding a 6-line wrasse that is slightly larger than my current 2 fish. Now that's going to be a bit harder to do and a bit more expensive probably, because I would need to put a light on a tank anyway, and the wrasse, it's risky adding a wrasse to a tank that already has a damsel and a tomato clown, and plus the rockwork's all bunched up back there. I might, if I add the wrasse, I might bring some of the rockwork down. I might take this piece up here and bring it to the front down here in this pile of rubble. I might also take this little piece that's hanging off here and push it to the front. Maybe try to make a cave section with this and the coral skeleton and this other piece of rock up here. Trying to make a little front cave. These are all decent options. Let's see. I could also push this up on its side, or even touching on a piece of rock so there's another hiding spot, rather than it just being kind of embedded into the sand. The last option is one that I'm not really considering as much because it's much more difficult. Also, it's January, and it will be hard to, or it's almost January for my case when I'm filming this video, but it will be January by the time the video comes out. The other option is to catch these two fish out and restart the whole thing. The only advantage to it is I could pretty much immediately put a few fish in the same day I bring these guys to the store. And I'm guessing I'm going to probably avoid clownfish this time around, just because, I mean, it appears as if the only fish I've done very well with consistently over the long term have been the clownfish. Everything else pretty much went in that one disease issue. I might try a pair of pink skunk clownfish or something like that. One of the species I haven't kept. I don't really want to try Ocellaris again. And I certainly don't want to try another aggressive clown species. This tomato clown was really an experimental fish that I was hoping could live with the damsel in the wrasse. And it's doing just fine. The only thing I'm wondering is if it's going to stay a male forever. Because it's not turning into a female in the presence of the damsel. I'm guessing because the damsel is much more dominant and the clown doesn't feel dominant. But yeah, the last option is to catch out everything and try everything over again. I think I would do 3 pajama cardinals if I were to go that route. I'd probably still put a freshwater tank light on. And I would probably still keep macroalgae. I think that would be a really nice tank to have macroalgae with some cardinal fish. And maybe a small goby or 2. See, the damsel is showing those darker colors right now. I'm pretty sure the camera is stressing him out a little bit, so I'm going to try to wrap this video up pretty soon. I believe catching them out would be the best course of action and would give me some store credit to start the next phase of this tank. But it's also a much more difficult route because I have no chance of catching both of them out with the rock work in place, because my guess is they're just going to go right back behind there and they're just not going to come out. So if I'm going to take them out, my guess is I'm going to either have to take a bunch of the rock work and push it to the front, or just remove the rock work entirely while catching them out. Regardless, it appears to be a more difficult proposal. So essentially I have a decision to make here, and the only thing I'm certain of is I'm probably not going to add another reef light to the tank with the intention of keeping corals. I believe a freshwater light for macroalgae might be a better option in my case. And I don't believe I'll be keeping that many fish in this next go around. I think I'm going to keep the tank stock under 5 fish. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the update. Aside from that, these 2 fish are doing fine. They're doing well. They're eating well. They really aren't fighting that much. The only fighting I ever see is really during feeding time and the occasional little chase. But both fish appear fine, and the clown appears to be able to get out of the damsel's way. So everything looks okay. Alright, that's it for this update. Hopefully next update the tank will look a lot different.